The temperature boils over for Virginia's governor after a medical school yearbook photo comes to light. His political future in question. How should Christians respond? The Pope, not only in the Middle East, but in a mosque, will break down the historic significance of his trip. And a different kind of noise out of Washington. And it's nice. We found a joyful noise in D.C.
And welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Well, Jenna, we can probably say this just about every week. At least it feels like that way, being here in Washington, D.C. It's a great big week.
That's for sure. President Trump will give his second State of the Union address Tuesday. And this is in the middle of trying to avoid another partial government shutdown. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with a sneak peek. Ben?
Well, Jenna and John, the speech's theme is choosing greatness. It hit on key issues like immigration, healthcare, and national security. The White House did release a brief excerpt. Together we can break decades of political stalemate, bridge old divisions, heal old wounds, build new coalitions, forge new solutions, and unlock extraordinary promise of America's future. We are also hearing from Politico that the president plans to use the address to promise an end to the HIV epidemic in America. The speech aims to provide a unifying bipartisan tone. Now, we are told the president will be making changes up until pretty much the hour of the speech. John, Jenna?
Ben, I hear the State of the Union comes amid the Senate rebuking President Trump over his plan to withdraw troops from Syria.
Yeah, John, President Trump is determined to bring U.S. troops home from Syria and Afghanistan. Trump said that when we took over Syria, it was infested with ISIS, and now you have very little ISIS, and you have a caliphate almost knocked out. Now, that contradicts reports from his top intel officials who said ISIS is intent on resurging and still commands thousands of fighters in Iraq and in Syria. The president's declaration of victory over the Islamic State sparked backlash from lawmakers on both sides. In December, he ordered the U.S. pull out 2,000 troops from Syria and 7,000 from Afghanistan. A large group of Republican senators passed an amendment rebuking the president's plan to pull out of troops fighting for terrorism. The commander-in-chief, or fighting against terrorism, that is. The commander-in-chief now seems to waver if this troop reduction will be a permanent solution.
Because the concern in here by your intelligence chiefs, though, is that you could, in that vacuum, see a resurgence of ISIS, see a resurgence of terror groups like Al-Qaeda.
We'll come back if we have to. We have very fast airplanes. We have very good cargo planes. We can come back very quickly. And I'm not leaving.
Now, the president is optimistic about ongoing peace talks with the Taliban to end U.S. military presence in Afghanistan. Trump did say there are no plans to remove troops from Iraq. John, Jenna?
Ben, this all comes as he is sending more troops down to the southern border. Talk about that.
Jenna, you're right. The Pentagon announced they are sending more than 3,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to beef up border security. Now, this has no impact on the president's demand for border wall money to avert another partial government shutdown. We heard House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last week say under no condition will they allocate money for a wall. And as you can imagine, no doubt this did not help negotiations.
Yeah. All right. Ben Kennedy for us at the White House. Thank you very much. Well, we will have special Faith Nation coverage of the State of the Union tomorrow night. Join us live starting at 8:30 p.m. right here on the CBN News Channel.
President Trump is finally set to deliver his State of the Union address tomorrow after having to, of course, reschedule it, his original date, due to the government shutdown.
Yeah, it's been quite a process getting to this point. For more on that, we go to our Capitol Hill correspondent, Abigail Robertson. Abigail, what are you hearing from lawmakers ahead of tomorrow night's speech?
Well, Jenna, this will be President Trump's first joint address to a divided Congress now that Democrats control the House. And many Democrats in the crowd that he'll be speaking to have already announced plans to run against him in 2020. And we know just a small handful of Democrats have decided and said that they will not be showing up to the speech at all tomorrow night. But a few faces that will be there. One person is Pastor Andrew Brunson, who this time last year was imprisoned in Turkey. He will be attending with his wife as a guest of Senator Tom Tillis, who worked very hard to see Pastor Brunson released and returned to the United States. So that'll be a happy face to look for in the crowd tomorrow. And we expect that the president will talk a lot about border security. We are on the heels of possibly another government shutdown just over a week from now. So that will certainly be a big topic in tomorrow's address.
Abigail, as you just mentioned there, with the government shutdown potentially happening in about a week from now, any signs of progress on a funding bill from that bipartisan conference committee?
Well, we don't know a whole lot about what they've come up with so far, but we do know that this week that conference committee is bringing in border and customs security experts, and they're going to ask them, do they need a wall? Do they need technology? Or do they maybe need a mix of both? They're going to take their answers into account as they work to find this compromise and get some kind of compromise legislation put together. And we know that Speaker Pelosi has asked that whatever they come up with, be ready by this Friday, because the government is set to shut down February 15th. And procedurally, it takes time for bills like this to get passed through the House, passed through the Senate, and signed by the president. So they want to get the ball rolling on moving that legislation through so we do not see another government shutdown.
And not a lot of time to waste. Well, Abigail, the Senate will also be taking up Marco Rubio's anti-BDS bill this week. Where does that stand?
So that measure is part of the Senate bill that they're looking at this week, the Strengthening of Securities in the Middle East Act. It will likely pass the Senate with strong bipartisan support, but in the House, it's a different story. There are a few House Democrats who openly support the BDS movement, but there's sort of an internal debate in the House Democrat Party, because there are a lot of House Democrats who are strong allies of Israel, but then there's a few in the middle who aren't necessarily taking a stand on the BDS movement, but they're saying that they're concerned with Senator Rubio's bill because they believe it violates free speech. Now, Senator Rubio thinks that many Democrats don't want to go on the record taking a vote of whether they support this measure or not, but it will likely pass through the Senate, and it's going to be very interesting when it gets to the House, because historically there has been strong bipartisan support for the state of Israel. Speaker Pelosi has yet to comment how she feels on this whole issue or about BDS, but she will certainly be questioned about that this week, and we will be following any updates from her on that.
All right, Abigail Robertson on Capitol Hill. Thanks, Abigail.
Well, the political fate of Virginia Governor Ralph Northam remains unclear. Protesters demanded his resignation at a rally outside of the governor's mansion in Richmond this morning. The embattled governor started his day meeting with members of his cabinet and senior staff, seeking to build support to stay in office and lead the state. Both Democrats and Republicans have called on Governor Northam to resign for those racially offensive pictures from his medical school yearbook.
And joining us now is Reverend Derek McCoy with CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. Thanks for being with us, Reverend McCoy.
Good to be with you.
Reverend McCoy, pressure has been building since the moment news first broke that Governor Northam was in these pictures. They wanted him to resign. Let's zoom out a bit first, though. Let's talk about why this is so important and why those calls came so immediately.
Well, I think they came so immediately because of the significance of the photo and exactly what took place. If you understand, 84 is not that long ago, even though for some it looks like a long time ago. But, you know, I remember it fresh, and it's one of those things that if you were a student back at those days, you knew exactly what was going into your yearbook page, and that's one of those most significant things that are around for many of us when we go through our college days. Matter of fact, more importantly and significantly is that the process for his photo was that you actually had to send the photo in and put it in an envelope and then give it to him. So you really knew what was going on.
Yeah, quite seems intentional. Well, Reverend, you're obviously a preacher. I'm wondering what you've been hearing about all of this among the people you know. Has it opened up wounds, and if so, how are you ministering to help bring healing?
Well, that's a great question. We have a national clergy network, and we're talking to our network all the time. And many of these pastors and leaders around the country are really, perplexed at this issue. It's a two-sided issue. One, there should be grace and mercy. At the same time, somebody who had this intentionality of it, we all know from a leadership position that it's very hard to command the leadership of people and to get the respect and the trust once something like this has been done. So it's going to take quite a bit of time. And I really don't think it's going to be within the time of his remaining time that he has still left. I think this would have been a dramatically different election if this came out even beforehand. And on the other side of the coin is that, well, what would be the replacement? Well, Justin. Well, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, unfortunately, he has a terrible record on the life issues and abortion issues. And so those are things that I think many preachers and many clergy and folks around this country are really concerned about, that we promote and protect life at its core. And so this is a fundamental issue that is right there in the center. And I think a lot of them are really struggling with this, but understand that leadership quotient is really important.
Reverend McCoy, some are trying to point to hypocrisy within the political parties when it comes to race and racism. It seemed as though a lot of Democrats were so quick and so eager to get Northam out of the way to keep the moral high ground, so to speak, on being a big tent party. But does either party have the moral high ground when it comes to issues like these?
Well, no, I don't think we shouldn't. I should say that. And it's one of those things they quickly relented to begin to call for and begin to, get the moral high ground on him and begin to talk to him. At the same time, no, I don't think so. Oftentimes what takes place, and let's be honest about this, is that because the Republican Party typically talks about morals and values, they get called on the carpet very quickly if there's duplicity in that issue. Now, Democratic Party oftentimes does not even have a problem with it for the most part, because there's not a real call or a sense of, hey, I got to stand up to this moral value or this code of integrity. It's a wishy-washy thing, because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I think when you look at something like this, oftentimes, especially with blacks, there's a big thing that, hey, we are a party for blacks. This is the thing that we want to do as far as the Democratic Party, and you have a majority voting. At the same time, you see this should go as an earshot to many people, that your vote needs to be counted for, and you need to have your vote earned by whatever party it is. And I think especially even this is a great opportunity for the Republican Party to look at and, hey, reach out and say, hey, we're not the party that's just arbitrarily doing this. Sometimes it looks as if only one side is this way, and that's not true.
Yeah. Reverend, just a few seconds left here, but oftentimes we can take a situation like this and find a teachable moment. Is there a lesson here to be learned?
Oh, yeah, I think it is a great lesson to be learned. One, the simple lesson is we need to understand what we need to do and do not do, and look at the long-term effects that something simple like this has on your life and on the stamp. I think we're talking to youth and we're talking to other people that are pursuing these things today. They need to really pay attention to how they live their lives really matters. And I think for all of us, we got to look at this too, for even the elected folks that are thinking about voting. Think about this when you got people coming up in your face and talking about different things, but live differently and model something differently. We need to look deeper and really find out who the people are that we're electing into office.
Yeah, Reverend Derek McCoy, thank you so much for your time. Good to see you.
You got it.
Well, Pope Francis arrived to a royal red carpet welcome on his 3-day visit to Abu Dhabi. In his first ever papal visit to the Arabian Peninsula, he called on faith leaders to reject the misery of war and its fateful consequences. Francis pointed specifically to Syria, Iraq, and Libya during his speech given in the predominantly Muslim country. The trip highlights its role in the ongoing war in Yemen and the plight of religious minorities in the United Arab Emirates. Tomorrow, Francis will hold a mass where 135,000 people are expected to attend.
And with us now is Father Thomas Reese, author of The Sign of the Times, a column for Religious News Services. Father Reese, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Let's talk about the significance of Pope Francis's trip. How far back in history do we have to go to see something of similar proportions?
Well, the beginning of time. This is the first time a pope has gone to this part of the world. So this is really unique. It's really important because he wanted to reach out in friendship to members of the Muslim community. It is so important that Christians and Muslims get along, that they work together for peace and for progress in the world. And that's one of the major goals of his visit to Abu Dhabi.
Father Reese, the United Arab Emirates doesn't have the best record when it comes to religious freedoms, religious liberty, or even the war in Yemen. So what's the message Pope Francis is trying to signal here on this trip?
Well, I think that the Pope sees that, you don't get change overnight. This is something that you work through and takes years, even decades. I mean, look at how long it took for Protestants and Catholics to get along with each other. We were killing each other in the past. Well, this is what the Pope is working at. And, they had a very significant statement that both he and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar University signed at this meeting. And one of the things it said was, let's no longer talk about minorities. Everybody should be a citizen. In other words, Christians should not simply be tolerated or guests in a Muslim state, but should be considered citizens. This is progress.
Yeah. How do you think the church will measure whether this trip is a success or not?
Well, as I said, I think it's small steps. I think this statement that he and the Grand Imam signed together is a sign of progress. I think as these things move forward, the condemnation of terrorism that they jointly did. They even had a section in there talking about the rights of women. Now, they didn't go into great detail, but at least, the words got into the statement.
Yeah.
That's a movement.
Yeah. Father Thomas Reese, great to have you. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. Coming up, we fill you in on where presidential candidates stand on a bill that would override state laws about third trimester abortions. Be informed. We'll be right back.
It seems we've been left alone.
The law states that no person shall convert any person from one religious faith to another.
Who is he?
And yet not one missionary has been charged.
Graham Staines, nice to properly meet you.
You bring me evidence of illegal conversion by Graham Staines. I'll give you a permanent position.
Need new floors? Empire Today makes getting beautiful new floors easy. Impossible? Let me show you. Empire brings hundreds of samples to you. We call it Shop at Home. The floors are high quality and come with great warranties. Plus, Empire handles the installation. You don't lift a finger, and the job's done right. Shop at Home, quality floors, professional installation. That's Empire Today.
Get $250 off new floors. Call the special number on your screen now.
Attention! If you currently do not get health insurance through your employer, or if you do not have health insurance, or if you just got divorced or married, had a baby, moved, or lost your health insurance coverage, listen closely. You are eligible for a new health care plan using Health Insurance America. A family of 4 can make up to $97,000 a year and still qualify for a new health care plan. Get coverage for doctor visits, prescriptions, hospital, dental, and vision for as little as $25 a week with copays as low as $0. Health insurance rates have nearly doubled in the last 3 years. Stop paying the rising cost of traditional major medical and learn how Health Insurance America is saving people thousands of dollars a year on their health care plans. Don't waste hours on the phone or on a government website. Talk to a live health care consultant right now.
Call 1-800-940-5020. That's 1-800-940-5020. 1-800-940-5020.
Well, here at CBN News, we are committed to getting you as close to the truth as possible because truth matters.
It's in that spirit we want to make sure you are informed about a bill in Congress called the Women's Health Protection Act. CBN News chief political analyst David Brody is here now to fill us in. David.
That is a mouthful, by the way. You know, John, Jenna, look, this is a shocking abortion bill we've all heard about in Virginia. It was introduced, as you know. It would have allowed abortion all the way up until birth. Well, you should know that a bill pretty much like just the one in Virginia we've been talking about has been floated around in Congress for years. Have a look. It's called the Women's Health Protection Act. It is a bill that would override state restrictions on third trimester abortions. Now, it has been introduced in each session of Congress since 2013. Here's the bill's text, quote, "The following restrictions on the performance of abortion are unlawful and shall not be imposed or applied by any government," here we go, "a prohibition on abortion after fetal viability, when, in the good faith medical judgment of the treating physician, continuation of the pregnancy would pose a risk to the pregnant woman's life or health." So let me just kind of break down the congressional gobbledygook. Basically, it means the bill is saying this federal bill would get rid of state restrictions on abortion, even after a fetus is deemed viable. That's the key. That means no restrictions on late-term abortions.
David, how does this play out politically for Democrats running in 2020?
It is going to be tough for them because, well, it might play well in the primaries for now, but if you go to a general election, whoever survives, that's a problem. Take a look, because many of these candidates are on record supporting this bill. Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, these are all co-sponsors of this bill in Congress. Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, even the moderate Amy Klobuchar, and Sherrod Brown. So the bottom line is that as much as everybody's making a big deal about the Virginia bill, look, it is in Congress, this type of bill, and all of them support pretty much an identical bill.
Yeah. David, I would think having a position like this on late-term abortion is not all that mainstream. I mean, a lot of people do not support this kind of extreme measure.
Right. When it's a pro-choice and pro-life argument, you know, overall, it's split in this country. But when it gets to late-term abortion, a different story. And have a look at some of these numbers. We're talking about third trimester abortions here. Look at that. 13% of Americans think abortion should be legal in the third trimester. Now, President Trump is capitalizing on this, as you might imagine, going into 2020. This is what he has said. Democrats are becoming the party of late-term abortion, high taxes, open borders, and crime. And so this is going to be part of what he's going to bring up during the 2020 general election when it gets there. Yeah.
David Brody,
that's all I've got.
That's all you've got.
Thank you, David.
Well, appreciate it.
Well, stay with us. We want to take you inside the sound of honor in Washington.
It seems we've been left alone.
The law states that no person shall convert any person from one religious faith to another.
Who is he?
And yet not one missionary has been charged.
Graham Staines, nice to properly meet you.
It was a beautiful film.
Phenomenal. It was really, really amazing.
Need new floors? Empire Today makes getting beautiful new floors easy. Impossible? Let me show you. Empire brings hundreds of samples to you. We call it Shop at Home. The floors are high quality and come with great warranties. Plus, Empire handles the installation. You don't lift a finger, and the job's done right. Shop at Home, quality floors, professional installation. That's Empire Today.
Get $250 off new floors. Call the special number on your screen now.
Attention! If you currently do not get health insurance through your employer, or if you do not have health insurance, or if you just got divorced or married, had a baby, moved, or lost your health insurance coverage, listen closely. You are eligible for a new health care plan using Health Insurance America. A family of 4 can make up to $97,000 a year and still qualify for a new health care plan. Get coverage for doctor visits, prescriptions, hospital, dental, and vision for as little as $25 a week, with copays as low as $0. Health insurance rates have nearly doubled in the last 3 years. Stop paying the rising cost of traditional major medical and learn how Health Insurance America is saving people thousands of dollars a year on their health care plans. Don't waste hours on the phone or on a government website. Talk to a live healthcare consultant right now.
Call 1-800-940-5020. That's 1-800-940-5020. 1-800-940-5020.
It has been a couple of months since the passing of former President George H.W. Bush. Many of you may remember his funeral service. It was a touching day for a lot of Americans.
That's right, and after his service, bells were played to honor the 41st president. Ben Kennedy takes us all the way to the top of the bell tower at the Washington National Cathedral for a behind-the-scenes look of the majestic sounds they produce.
It's a sound heard for miles in D.C. but it begins with a pull of a rope.
A lot of people seem to believe that the bells are rung through mechanical means with a machine.
Instead, bells are rung by hand in a series of short touches called change ringing. The style dates back to the early 17th century, where in England it was used to call people to worship.
Every village church has it in England, right? If you see a British movie and there's a wedding, you hear those bells ringing in the background.
This sound traveled across the ocean to the States, where the practice continues in places like the Washington National Cathedral.
He's pulling 2 strokes. The one when the bell goes this way and the one when the bell goes this way.
When you pull down, you don't want to pull the rope, you want to pull the sally.
To start, yes, you always start by pulling the sally. Okay. The bell goes around in a 360-degree turn.
The bell swings in a full circle, which allows the speed of the bell to be changed. The larger the arc, the slower the rate of striking.
We ring not tunes, we ring mathematical permutations. And that's what we're learning. They're called methods.
So this is a method that we would ring on 5 bells. This is a method we'd ring on 6 bells. This is the simplest method that we ring.
The challenge then is to be able to time your bell so it's in the right place. If I'm number 3, like Rob is right now, he has to time it so 2 bells are in front of him and 3 are behind him until the method has been called. Rob is now ringing in, now he's in 3rd place. Now he's still in 3rd place. Now he's in 2nd place. Now he's leading.
To put things into perspective, the sheer size of these bells, I'm 6 feet tall, and this bell is about the same size as me. This is the tenor bell. It is the heaviest change ring bell here in the U.S., weighing in at 3,588 pounds. The Washington Ringing Society is behind the music. It's run entirely by volunteers ages 15 to 80 years old from all backgrounds: teachers, computer programmers, doctors, and musicians. They travel up an elevator to one of the highest points in D.C. to perform and practice weekly.
It's a team sport in a way, because each person is ringing his or her own bell, but you have to ring it with the other people. It's like dancing, where you really have to be moving in rhythm with your body.
The computer just spitting out a perfect bong, 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 like that. And we put, I suppose you'd say, some heart into it because of our imperfections.
This type of ringing is only done in a few places across the U.S. The music can be heard in D.C. after Sunday service at the National Cathedral and on federal holidays and civic occasions. The group recently rang a quarter peal following the service of former President George H.W. Bush. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Washington.
What a great story. Ben gets all the great assignments.
It does. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it was. Well, a quick reminder before we go. We will have special live coverage of the State of the Union tomorrow night. Jenna and I, along with our colleagues who cover Capitol Hill and the White House, will all be here.
That's right. We will start at 8:30 p.m. sharp. The president speaks at 9, followed by the Democratic response. And we will have it live right here on the CBN News Channel. And we would, of course, love for you to join us. David, you will be right here with us as well.
I will be here because there's food. It'll be catered. I think it's going to be an uplifting message. He's pretty good in these. He usually takes the high road. No Twitter tomorrow night.
Teleprompter Trump.
Teleprompter Trump. I am waiting for the memes, though, with Nancy Pelosi behind.
And you're catering the meal, right?
I am catering.
Thank you.
Wait, did I just put that? I have a mic on, yes.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks for joining us tonight for Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.